Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Ali.
So, 352 of A to the show. Tamir Khalil. Did I say it right?
Tamir Khalil.
Tamir Khalil. Welcome to the podcast. Hey, we got another great filmmaker on the show. And Tamir, do you want to tell us first off how you got into the whole film business?
Yeah, I started writing years and years. Gosh, I don't want to age myself, but I started writing about 17 years ago. I didn't know what I was writing for. I was just writing a story that I was dealing with. I was in high school during 9/11 in a small Midwest town in Minneapolis. So I started dealing with things as an Arab American that I didn't understand. They were very new to me, feelings that I never dealt with. So I just started writing. Them. They started as poems. They were just kind of feelings on paper. And then they turned into short stories. And then I just kind of put them aside for a long time until I teamed up with an incredible writer. His name's George Pafitas, based in New York. And he sent me one of his scripts and asked me to read it. And in this time, I was kind of growing my career in the automotive world. I read this script of his and I thought it was really amazing. And I told him about my idea, and he called me the next day and said, "We're writing that script." And we started writing that script in 2009, 2010, really started focusing on it in 2013. And in 2017, we started getting some interest on the script. The script's titled Radical. So that's kind of how it all started.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. So I do want to ask you, Tamir, what about, so I hear a lot of advice from really successful people. Some of them say you should do multiple things at the same time. Some of them say you can only do one thing at a time and only focus on one thing. You clearly have been doing automotive stuff plus this filmmaking stuff. Do you wish you're able to focus one at a time? Or how are you able to balance the two?
Yeah, it's always, I've heard that question. I've asked that question myself to people that I entrust in for advice. But, it's a tough one because, obviously, if you can do what you love and feed yourself and your family off of it, that's always, give all your energy to that if possible. But if you can't, if that's not something that is there for you at that moment, don't be afraid to do what you need to do, to live in this monetary world we live in. Right. I grew my career as an automotive executive, and I found myself in a position where I had an opportunity to, walk away from my career, sell the shares of my business that I was a partner in, to focus on my dream, my passion. My family was supportive. They thought I was crazy at first, walking away from a good job, all these things. But for me, when I saw an opportunity to do what I love, I had to try giving that all I got. Listen, it doesn't pay the bills, right. But it wakes. You'll find that it wakes something in yourself that you wake up every morning really looking forward to doing that thing.
Right. That was great. You said, like, if you could do whatever you want all day, you should just do it. But not all of us have that luxury, especially in the filmmaking world, right? All of us. And I think one of the most difficult things, of course, is making money in the film industry, right? It takes a long time to ramp up. And I'm also thinking about this too, because I'm getting my psychology master's. I'm a behavioral therapist. I do that for my financial means, and I'm able to do films just for fun and just for the art of it.
And podcasts. You're a busy man.
And podcasts. Yeah, I'm trying. Honestly, if you ask me, if I didn't have to do any work, I'd just be doing this full time all the time. But
that's great.
You just gotta be able to balance the means. So, advice for young filmmakers, right? If you could look back on young Tamir and tell him something, what's something that now that when you were younger you could have benefited from?
Well, first of all, I'm not willing to accept the fact that I'm no longer young Tamir. Okay, I'm still young.
You are, yes.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I'm an aspiring filmmaker myself, right? I mean, I haven't hit what they call the home run, and I haven't this isn't, it doesn't pay my bills yet, and maybe it never will. And I find myself at times really, really, really pushing myself almost too hard, because when I start getting frustrated that I haven't hit that home run yet, and especially when I'm writing, in my writing, I can read it, I can hear it in my writing, I can see it. There's frustration. There's this need to push what doesn't need to be pushed, and generally it doesn't come out. Especially as a writer, I think it was Quentin Tarantino, I believe, who said. It was him or David Lynch who said, what is it? Be honest to the page. I mean, every page is really its own story. And, every day is our own page, and we just can't force it. And I guess I would go back and tell myself 10, 15, 20 years ago that your time will come if it's meant to come, and just do what you love and don't be hard on yourself. And, I mean, as I get older, I find myself trying to just be present in what I'm doing and just breathe a bit and just be patient with my growth. A mentor of mine just told me the other day, he's an incredible musician, very talented human being, won many awards. And he told me the other day, he goes, he pretty much said, even once you win all those awards, what then? You're just going to look for the biggest and best next award. And that really meant something to me, because that's who I am. I'm always looking for the next thing. I'm always looking for the best. So yeah, I would tell myself just to be a little more patient and calm and just be at peace.
Oh, wow. Be patient and calm. So being patient with like your expectations, or
being patient with my expectations, being patient with what I'm doing at that moment. If it's the automotive world, or if it's the film world, or whatever it is, just be patient. Obviously keep in mind what you want to do and your ambitions and what you aspire to do, but they'll come. Just let them come at their own time.
Amazing. All right, now let's switch it up a bit. You mentioned Tarantino and you mentioned David Lynch. Who are some of your filmmaking inspirations?
Oh gosh. It's interesting. For me, I don't think I ever really considered myself a film buff like most filmmakers do. I didn't go to film school. I just really always loved storytelling in general. Ironically, I was voted biggest storyteller in high school, well before I thought I'd be a storyteller. But I've always loved being in front of people and just telling a story. It didn't matter how big or great or grandiose the story was. I just love being in front of people, the audience, and seeing what kind of emotion I can trigger from every story I told. But I love what Quentin Tarantino can do. Obviously, very, very talented. There's a lot of filmmakers that are just really great. I love Ari Aster, and Midsommar is one of my favorite movies in the last 10, 20 years maybe. There's just some greats out there. So yeah, as I love watching Leonardo DiCaprio on screen, because there's a guy that he just inspires the heck out of me. I totally have a man crush on him, because every time I watch him on screen, he's one of those guys that's probably one of the most recognizable faces in the world. Yet as soon as he's in character, I forget who he is, and I only fall into the character. And I'm not an actor. I'm not meant to be in front of the screen, in front of the camera. But I think of that when I'm writing. How can I tell a story where you forget you're reading a story or watching a story, fall into the story?
Wow. Yeah, Leo DiCaprio, he's a fantastic actor. And I think just because he embodies, the role, and he's just, an amazing actor. Were there any movies that were like influential in your life that really made you want to do filmmaking? Like I know you mentioned Midsommar recently, but I'm curious about more influential things in
Malcolm X.
Yeah.
Malcolm X was fantastic. I thought that story was so powerful, obviously, without it even being the movie, but the way it was all done, and just the following this visual, emotional roller coaster that Denzel takes us on. It was so impressive. That was really phenomenal. There's a movie out there called Dogville with
Lars von Trier.
What's that?
Isn't that Lars
Yes,
von Trier?
yes,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Most people
Wow.
don't know. That's pretty impressive. I don't know very many people have seen that movie. Well
Yes,
done.
exactly. I'm also a filmmaker. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's beautiful and one of the greatest movies, and it's inspirational. It just shows you how much farther you can keep pushing the medium. Like everything can keep changing, and filmmaking.
And that's perfectly said, because to me, that's a movie. For anybody who hasn't seen it, this whole movie is shot on it looks like you're on a stage, and the doors are colored out in chalk, and every time you walk by this chalk drawn out dog, there's a barking sound. And I remember within the first 10 minutes, I'm like, oh, I'm never gonna be able to get through this movie. And I think it's like a 3-hour movie or something. It's a long movie. And I remember within 20, maybe 30 minutes, I completely forgot what I was actually looking at. It all became so real. The dog became a real thing for me. I mean, that was real. It was not like a chalked out drawing. I remember thinking that dog was real. Or every time they'd walk into the door where they actually didn't even have a door, they just swing open this. It blew me away. And, I'm one of these people that when I find a movie or a show that I really, really love, I become like a salesperson for that product. I remember it's like a 3-hour movie. And I remember I would literally have friends over watching a football game, be like, all right, guys, we're watching this movie, and sit them down and watch this whole 3-hour movie. And I did it for 2 months straight, where I watched it probably a dozen times. So yeah, that was really exceptional. If you've never seen it, go see that movie, Dogville. Watch it.
Great. Yes, that's a great pitch for that movie. Go watch it.
Yeah.
Amazing movie.
Yeah.
That movie is incredible. And as you say, it's like when you start watching it, you can't get your eyes off the screen. It's very rare that films are so captivating and they can be 3 hours long. You mentioned Tarantino, like Kill Bill. I just watched Kill Bill recently, 1 and 2 back to back, and it's 5 hours long, but you can't take your eyes off the screen. I don't know how they do it versus I'm mixed about the world of television, because I know in the world of television, it's not really about every single frame or every single scene being the most elevated it can be. It's more about following a character and its journey. But I don't know, what are your thoughts on television versus film and your aspirations? Yeah.
It's definitely a different world, right? But I think it's all true to be said that I don't think there's a TV show that can succeed if every single episode doesn't have some serious power and punch, a part of the punch. Let's use, for instance, Breaking Bad, right?
Right.
Fantastic show. Why was it fantastic? I think, yes, the character development was very incredibly powerful, and they did such a great job. But I think every episode, it was almost watching its own movie, right? There were so many storylines, but they were so powerful, and you followed this one main driving force in every episode. And there's an example how television and movies can resemble themselves. I don't like a lot of shows. I don't like a lot of shows that, here, I'm going to admit to something. Jerry Seinfeld, not a fan. Not a fan.
Seinfeld. Yeah.
I'm telling you, that show, Seinfeld, is horrible to me. I don't like it. I don't like it. I think it's just, I get it. I mean, whatever. I see why people do like it, but not for me.
All right, you got to explain yourself now. You can't just say it.
I know. It's such a hard one. I think that's such an epitome of a television show that's written for, a long, drawn out thing. And every episode is its own episode. But I don't, unless you saw the character development in one episode, I don't think I can feel I don't know. It's hard for me to explain it. Yes. I tried to explain it. Trust me, I've been attacked. Pretty much been beaten by people for that statement. But it doesn't do it for me. Now, Entourage. You've ever seen Entourage? I remember watching Entourage for the first time, and I think that was another time I was like, oh my God, I want to be in Hollywood. That was a great show. But the movie wasn't great.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to show, right? Movies can't always, beat the shows, and sometimes shows can't beat the movies. It's really Yeah, because like Seinfeld has its audience, which is, I'm sure if you love it, that's awesome. But it's meant for like your after work, you come home, you're eating dinner while watching Seinfeld, versus if you're watching a movie like Dogville or one of like an amazing movie, right? The whole vibe of it is that you're supposed to sit in and watch the movie and be captured by the movie. However, I do think that's all changing because now they're becoming more and more of the same medium. Since you're streaming everything, you're streaming every movie just the way you're streaming every single show. So kind of why do you even need to make a movie anymore if everything can just become a show, right?
Yeah, it's definitely changing. I mean, that's what streaming does, right? It's changing. It's changing what film looks like. I won't say any names, but I was speaking with a very successful, incredibly talented producer, probably one of the most incredibly talented producers in Hollywood. And he was looking at one of my scripts that I was looking for some help in getting into development. And, he told me, I love the script. I think it has a lot of powerful aspects to it, but it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit what Netflix is looking for. It doesn't fit their mandate. And I was like, what are you talking about? What does that have to do with you? And Netflix, a lot of these producers, if Netflix isn't buying, they're not making. They pay their bills, and that's the world we live in now. It's not meant, which I think it's really sad in some ways, but honestly, I think it opens up doors for people like myself, independent filmmakers,
Right.
people who don't have $100 million budget films. I think it opens up. I think that's what A24 does a really great job at, and some of these other houses. But I think, streaming it can saturate us with a lot of content, and unfortunately, some of it not being that great. But who cares? Because it kind of opens the door for guys and gals who have never had the opportunity to get that huge funding, but they can make a movie and they can bootstrap it. And if it works out and is successful, great. If not, so what? They got a chance to get it out there in front of people. So I'm all for it, man. I think what's happened is, I think it's a disruption. I think it's going to shake things up. As long as it opens a door for independence and, it's people to go out there and make a movie, let's do it.
Yeah. Wow. No, I can totally see that perspective about how it is giving access to a lot more people to be on streaming, but it also takes away the access from you to be in theaters, which is kind of it's difficult, right? Because when you're writing a script and you're imagining it like it would be watched in a theater, maybe, but if most people are watching it at home on a TV, then I don't know if you should be making movies differently now. So it's a really interesting paradigm shift, and I want to ask you about something you also talked about, like what Netflix and studios are looking for. Ahmad Mawas, the great legendary actor Ahmad Mawas, said that there's a shift changing where they're looking more for like spin-offs and sequels and not necessarily original content. We had this debate because I think that if there is something original and it is amazing, producers would much rather pick that over something that's a sequel because it has more room to pop off. So what's your thoughts on the current, like the new movies coming out? Do you want to make original content or do you want to do a Marvel movie? Yeah.
I think studios, yes, he's right in a certain aspect that studios, your big studio boxes they're gonna be looking for something that they can make a few different. It's harder to make money for those guys now, right? I mean, you don't have the sales of the cinemas anymore. So opening weekends aren't. I think it was M. Night Shyamalan's last movie. One of the. Yeah, I think it was one of the. I haven't seen it, but I think if I read some that it had a pretty large box office opening compared to other films, might have been the largest, but it was also some of the least money he's had on one of his opening weekends since whatever movie it was.
Yeah.
So
but well, COVID has a huge thing to do with it, right?
Of course, I mean
going to
COVID,
theaters,
but I think once this is all over, people probably won't go to the cinema as much anymore either, right? But yeah, I think they got to figure out a way to make more money, and that may need sequels and that spin-offs and so on and so forth. And but I think you're going to either have huge box office or huge budget films, $100 million plus budget films, or you're going to have really small, $10 million, maybe even less budgeted films doing well. I don't think. I mean, look at just the people who've been winning awards, and look at the movies. I mean, Nomadland was incredible.
Right.
Farewell, Minari. All these movies. I don't think they're humongous budgets compared to some of these others, but they're winning, and they're getting recognized. I think Ahmed might be right in a certain aspect, but I do think that people are really open to seeing a really good original story as long as it's got real bones to it. As long as it can really take them, especially right now more than anything, we're stuck in our homes a lot of the times. We don't have the same entertainment, and we're really dealing with a lot of feelings and emotions internally, and listening to really good music and watching a really good movie that we can just relate to and that can touch on those feelings. I think we have an opportunity as filmmakers and just in general artists to reach a lot of people and hopefully just share our feelings through those stories.
Amazing. Yeah, no, it's true. It's like an escape, right? I mean, that's what filmmaking is. Like, no matter how shitty the world is, you can just watch a movie that you love and it can make you feel a certain way.
Nice. We can swear on this podcast. I love it.
Oh yeah, you can go for it. Not family friendly, yeah. All right, Ahmed, Tamir, I want to ask you about. So you worked in the automotive world, and the automotive world is one of the places I've seen technology develop so fast, right? Like we've went from 20 years ago from whatever manual cars, and now we have self-driving cars that are amazing. And futuristic. My thing with filmmaking, I feel like the technology maybe hasn't changed so much in the past 20 years, or maybe it has changed in the past couple decades as much as it could. I wonder if you have any insights like Dogville on how, technology in the medium can change. Do you have any?
Ali, I got to tell you, you're asking the absolutely worst person on the planet about technology. I barely could figure out a way to get on this call with you. Ahmad Mawas used to make so much fun of me. I could barely open his emails, or I'm old school. I literally, when I'm writing, I just voice text as I'm walking around, and then I write it on a piece of paper, or, I'm so old school. So the reason I probably like Dogville is because it just has that old school feel. I don't need all the fancy stuff, right?
Right.
Listen, Avatar, incredible movie.
And that's what I was thinking about. Avatar, incredible movie.
But I can sit back and watch Raging Bull. I can sit back and watch...
Right.
I can sit back and watch it. And Raging Bull, if you look at it, I mean, those punches are not landing. I can assure you right now, he's not even close. But I don't care. I don't need all that. Some people do, and maybe technology does need to go faster in entertainment, but I hope not. Because this is in the automotive world, technology had to speed up because people didn't want to spend that much time with technology, with even buying a car, right? Just people don't just want to disconnect from driving. They don't even want to drive anymore. I don't know if that's ever going to be the case with, yes, streaming. They don't want to go to the theaters, but it's still very intimate. And I think, I do think people want shorter content. So I think we'll start seeing shorter, quicker movies. I think we'll see a platform that will open up. I think Amazon does a really great job with short films, giving a good diverse selection. But I think we'll see some kind of platform that will do better at offering, short films, because I think the masses are going to, Beauty of Warmth that I just did with Ahmed is a short film. And, I remember when I wrote it, I didn't know how long I should write it, but I thought to myself, I'm like, listen, people these days are just everything. They just want a quick video. They just want in and out. They want the information as fast as they can and go. So, with technology, I think it's going to change film in that sense. I think 3-hour movies are probably a thing of the past, or 2.5-hour movies. I don't think anyone would sit down and watch Shawshank Redemption in the same theater anymore, or whatever the case may be. But I think that's where we're at. I think we're going to start seeing a little shorter films. But I hope we don't see technology in the sense of, please don't get. Computers need to stay out of film. Let me watch a real person in front of me with real tears pouring on their face, having real dialogue. Not just me. Mm-hmm. I love those kind of stories, and that's why I do it. At least.
It's true. Like watching someone actually cry for real is, you can connect to that on a deep level for some reason, right? Because it's real. Versus if it's like CGI tears, it's CGI. Yeah.
It's human. It's human.
Right. So you brought up Beauty of Warmth. I want to ask you about I know what kind of story is that about, and do you want to tell us maybe about the kind of stories you're interested in telling?
Yeah, Beauty of Warmth. So after writing my script, George and I wrote Radical, and we ended up having a production house in Chicago pick it up and they were going to produce it, and we were set to shoot in April of 2020, and all the money was raised and the whole project was ready to take off, and COVID hit and shut us down. Well, at this time I already sold the shares of my company. I was already sitting at home. That was kind of what I was rolling the dice on, is making this movie. And then I started, not being able to travel, and I was starting to go through like depression of like, what am I going to do now? And also, I was watching a lot of people around me suffer from addiction, and it was hard to watch. So I started kind of coming up with an idea for a script that I had, and I started kind of writing it, but then I stopped, and then all of a sudden, someone really close to me, it was like my little brother. I got a call, from his brother, who's my best friend, and again, like my brother, that he passed away from an overdose, and it crushed me.
I'm sorry.
It crushed me. It just made me, it put me in a position that I almost felt like what we were, experiencing with COVID, all these things, was kind of putting me in a corner, putting me in a position of just, vulnerability. And for a split second, I said, wait a second, Radical's kind of shut down right now, but here's a story that needs to be told because this is happening all around us. And it opened up something inside of me. So, Beauty of Warmth it's a love story, right? It's a love story. It's about a young Arab American executive who falls in love, even though it's a volatile and dangerous relationship. He's, head over heels in love, but he's simultaneously finding himself on a slippery slope of addiction at the same time. And he's trying to navigate these two things at the same time. And you really watch him shift from being one thing to being something completely different.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sorry for your loss. And I also had a friend recently who passed away from an overdose, so I can somewhat relate. And it's really actually sad when you learn about all these people around the country and around the world that are dying from overdose, and it's really heartbreaking, to be honest. And I'm sure COVID made things a lot worse for a lot of people who
absolutely
were on the fence. And so I want to ask you, when you were writing that script, was it like for you a form of like expressing all your opinions on it? What kind of was it you're leaving to write the script?
Everything I write, everything I write, for me, if it isn't true to me, I can't write it. It's really hard for me. And my first script, that was the truth to it, and quite frankly, with this script, it was the same thing. It was so real. And for me, I can put that on the page, right? I remember, I'm not the most technical person. I didn't go to film school. I didn't, I'm self-taught on everything I'm doing. When I showed up on set to shoot that film and I was directing it, my DP had to hit me in my shoulder and go, okay, you can call action now. I don't know a lot of these things, right? I had to teach myself. But when I wrote that, I just wanted to be real. And I wanted people to see a story that happens every day. I'm somebody who suffered with addiction my whole life. It took me a long time to be able to say those words, especially as an Arab American, especially somebody who has, very conservative backgrounds and beliefs and parents. I didn't want to admit to those things. I couldn't look someone in the face and say, Baba, Mama, I'm an addict. What the hell do you mean you're an addict? That doesn't fly in my household. So it took a long time.
Right.
So, when I wrote this, I wanted to write it as an Arab American struggling, because it's something that happens in our community, not just American community, but Arabs community and Arab American community. And we need to stop sweeping it under the rug. It just can't happen anymore. People who watch this movie, I hope, will understand that I was just pouring as much of my experiences out there, and not everybody will be able to connect or relate or whatever the case may be. But the ones who do, I really hope understand, what's going on with someone like me having to tell this story and why. And hopefully, it can shed some light on what it really looks like. How love and addiction are not different. They're the same thing.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with what you have to say. And, I share a similar experience coming from Lebanon, which is a little more conservative. And then you come to the United States and you see this whole world, and it's hard to communicate this world to their world. And so when you're making a movie, when you wrote that script, were you thinking about like the people who would connect to it? Were you writing this for yourself? Because it seems to me that you said it's not meant for everyone, or everyone can watch it, but there's gonna be people who can really connect to it. Do you have that in mind when you were writing it?
No, I really didn't.
Yeah.
I just wanted to put as much truth and honesty of myself into it. You might see some parallels between me and the main character, and there's other people in my life that you'll see some comparisons to as well. But no, when writing the script, I just wanted to tell a story that was in my head. That's always been my deal. I've got a story in my head. I want to tell it. How I tell it, I have no idea. I just put it out there. I was really lucky, though, if I can share something here. I wrote this script quickly. I wrote this script in, I don't know, maybe a week, maybe even less. And I remember getting the script in my hand, reading it, sending it off to 3, 4, 5 friends that I thought wanted to read it. And everyone kind of came back with their feedback. And this amazing mentor of mine, Khalid Abou Naga, phenomenal actor from Egypt, obviously, who's now all over Hollywood in some really, really big projects, who's been somebody I've looked up to for a long time, who I've been lucky enough to connect with. I asked him if he would help produce it, and he said, yeah. And then I reached out to Ahmad Mawas, ATM, and I said, hey, would you help produce this thing? I don't know, I haven't directed it, I haven't wrote a movie, this is the first movie I'm going into production with. And I reached out to my younger brother, and he said, hey, can I help produce this thing as well? I was like, absolutely, I want to shoot this movie in less than 2 months. They're like, what? Wow. Yep. I said, yep, I want to cast this movie, have everything ready, and shoot this thing in less than 2 months. Wow. And we did it, dang it. We did it. I remember when I sent it to Ahmed and I said, hey, we produce this, you read it? And he goes, yeah, I'd love to produce it, but I'd like to to read for the main role. And I remember going, I don't know, Ahmed. This is a story of somebody who's dealing with something you've never dealt with before. I don't know if this is a story for you to play. You've never done drugs. You've never had to deal with what this person's dealing with. And I don't know if it's for you. And I said, tell you what, let's do a table read one night. So we were sitting in downtown Minneapolis, and we did a table read. And I said, you know what, let's go outside. He's like, what do you mean? So let's go outside. And there's a scene in the movie where it's really powerful, but it's outdoors. And I said, all right, here, read this. He's like, right here? I was like, yep. And I'll tell you what, Ali, I remember this, and I was recording this, and I took pictures of him as well, some close-ups. He had tears coming down his face, real tears coming down his face. And I remember going, whoa. Like, this is my guy. This is the guy who's this role. Like, and I was blown away. And I remember hanging up the phone and calling my brother and a few other guys and go, ATM's the guy. Ahmed's the guy. He is going to play this role, and he's going to kill it. And it was awesome. And it all came together so well. And I was so blessed to team up with Khalid Abulnega and Ahmad Mawas and Melissa Pak, who's an exceptional person. Melissa Pak has also teamed up. She took the reins and went crazy and started writing the feature version for this script, which is now finished, and we're working on getting it produced as well. So Melissa's a superstar. Austin Beery, the DP, Taylor Lewin, for sound, Macklemore for being so gracious to jump on this project and really help me out. And
yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, all right, Ahmad Mawas, definitely really amazing, and it's really cool how you maybe at first were a little skeptical, and then challenged him, and then he really was able to prove that he was meant for the role. I mean, it just goes to show that you can't always cast like judgments or expectations, especially on actors, because actors can surprise you. That's yeah. And now tell us about Macklemore. How did Macklemore get involved?
Yeah, let me just slide that one in there. Yeah, I actually I'm not going to go too much into detail, but he's got a song that I really, really loved, and it was a motivator for me in a lot of ways. And he's somebody who's obviously been very open about being in recovery, and honestly, I think he's probably been more open and probably done more for the recovery community than most celebrities are able to take credit for, because he's not embarrassed to say that he's dealt with it and he's dealing with it every day on a daily basis. So I met him randomly actually in Seattle, and I told him about the movie, and what he didn't know is I wanted to use one of his songs at the end of it, and I put it in the dang movie, and we couldn't afford the rights to the songs. Yeah. And I couldn't afford licensing. I mean, we bootstrapped this thing. We spent way more than budget. And, I didn't know what the heck I was doing with that. But I ran into him and I was like, hey, man, I got this movie. And he's probably like, oh, great. But he was cool. He was really cool. He goes, send it to me. Let me watch it. And I sent it to him. And then a week goes by, no response. And I'm like, oh, no. I'm just waiting for the letter, cease and desist from his lawyers to say, do not use this song. But no, he came back. He goes, I loved the movie. I loved the characters. I loved the story. I love what it represented. Excuse me. And he goes, no, do you use the song? And gave me feedback, and we talked a bunch about it. We became really close, and we actually talk on a weekly basis now. And he's just been a really great mentor of mine. And, he's helped me deal with some of the things I need to deal with when it comes to recovery. But he's just been a, great advocate of telling these kind of stories, him through music, and supports me doing it through film.
Wow. Amazing. I mean, that's a great story, and it's really good for, filmmakers. And for me, it just shows that like you can sometimes reach out to people that might actually like the project you're working on if you show that that there's actual talent and there's actually made something that's great. Maybe they do want to collaborate with you, and I'm sure Macklemore had someone help him when he was younger, and I guess he's just passing it on to you, lucky Tamir. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of amazing.
So I'll tell you what, I've been really lucky. I've also been really lucky, and probably I don't have shame in my game. I will hit up everybody I possibly can. I remember when I wrote Radical, I saw Khalid Abunega in a show called Tyrant. And I remember going, oh my gosh, I want this guy. I was sitting next to my wife and I said, hey, this guy's amazing. I want him for one of my characters. And she starts laughing and she goes, you're so silly. You'll never get him. And I was like, why not? She goes, that's Khalid Abunega. He's like the Brad Pitt of the Middle East. He's huge. He's not going to take on your little movie. I'm like, no way. So fast forward like 6 years later, something crazy. And he was in Minneapolis for a play and I was living in Minneapolis. I just got back from New York with my writing partner, kind of wrapping things up and kind of getting ready to move on with, the next steps of the Radical. And I got back into Minneapolis and I found out he was in a play in Minneapolis at the Guthrie Theater.
Wow.
And someone I knew was interviewing him for the play. And I reached out to my friend and said, can you please connect me? Please connect me. He goes, not a chance. Everybody wants to meet him. I was like, please, I want to tell him the story and da-da-da-da-da. That night, I got a text message from Khalid Abunega. That night, saying, hey, I heard about your story. Love to meet with you sometime. Why don't you come meet me right now and let's talk? It was like 10 o'clock at night. I drove as fast as I could to go meet him. And we talked for hours and hours and hours. And he loved the story. And he just, agreed to come on and, play the role that eventually, hopefully, once we get this thing made, that I really wanted him for. And who would have thought that this guy that I saw 6-7 years ago, prior, that I really wanted would agree to do this thing and become a mentor of mine. So I got no shame in my game.
No, I mean, you're convinced in what you're doing. And, I just want to know, why do you think he accepted it? It's, as you say, most people think it's unthinkable to even ask, but you asked and he wanted to do it the same way Macklemore wanted to do it. So what do you think, for like, if I were to ask someone like Brad Pitt to be in my movie, what is, I don't know, why would Brad Pitt accept it?
Listen, I think this sounds kind of cliche and silly, but I believe in this more than anything. I believe that real recognizes real. And I think as long as what you're doing is real and genuine and true, especially if it's meaningful and it's something that needs to be told, these people are real people. They're human beings who really have the same feelings and emotions and things. It doesn't matter where they live or who they are, how successful. They're still people at the end of the day. And I think that's, maybe one day I'll walk up to Brad Pitt with a project and maybe Brad will recognize if it's real or not. But I think he'll recognize if it's fake as crap too. I think if he looks at it and goes, all right, beat it. You're just another filmmaker trying to make a bunch of money. And I think they can realize, they can read into that. And I think for me, I can only speak on my own experiences is, I'm not, when I write this stuff, I'm not writing any of this to hit a home run and become super rich and famous, even though I have my own insecurities and I look at Instagram and I go, gosh, why is there not more people following Beauty of Warmth? Or why haven't I won the huge awards yet? Of course, but I tell these stories because I just really want to tell the stories. And I think that when you do that, I think when you just do what you really love, things will come together. There's a story for you to be told, meaning Ali's story is there. Ali has this whole life of experiences, and his story will be told the way it needs to be told, through podcast or through film or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, we're kind of wrapping up on time here, but it's funny how it ends with honesty is the best policy.
Yeah, there you go.
And love who you are and be yourself. And it's funny how these cliches actually, they actually work and they're actually real. Before we wrap up here, Tamir, I want to know what's next in store for you. So Beauty of Warmth, Wrapped. What's the next your next point of focus?
Yeah, we've wrapped up Beauty of Warmth. It's been in the festival circuit. It won Best Actor award in the New York Film Festival, Europe Film Festival.
Congrats.
Thank you. It's made it into some other film festivals, Indie Night, some other film festivals. We're waiting on a couple really large film festivals to hear back from them before we decide where we're going to release. So hopefully we're going to be releasing this thing, within the next 60 to 90 days.
Nice.
Which I can't wait. I just want to get it out there. I don't want to think about it anymore. I just want to get it out. And if people hate it, if they love it, whatever the case may be, but it's out of my hands. It's no longer mine to worry about. That I can't wait for. I've got Radical. We're back in the process of getting, support and getting it produced. Just kind of re-raising funds, getting some more investors on the project. So hopefully we'll have that thing up and running again. I got a couple other scripts that I've got one short script that I finished up that I'm really excited to shoot in LA fairly soon. And I'm living in California now full time. It's beautiful. It's sunny. I don't live in LA. I live in San Diego. I needed more beach vibes.
More peaceful vibes.
I'll drive up a couple hours for movies and some projects, but besides that, I need to relax and breathe. I'm getting too old for that energy. But yeah, I mean that's it. I mean you can follow us on Beauty of Warmth on Instagram. I'll kind of give you some details on Beauty of Warmth, and I will be spinning that off to broader projects and more things I will be working on in the future.
Hey, best of luck to you, Tamir. Really, I think, especially from like an Arab American to an Arab American, is really, there's not that many of us making movies on a big scale, and hopefully, your success brings success to me, and my success brings success to more of us. Yeah. Absolutely. So, best of luck, Tamir.
Ali, thank you so much for
having me. We're signing out now.
Take care, buddy. Have a good one. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. This is how we sign out. Thanks for watching the show.
Peace.
Goodbye.
Peace.
Woo. Excellent. And that's a wrap.